Hey guys, it's Mr. A from Another Watch Time. Thought I'd do something a little different today. Came out on one of my favorite courses, for a hike, and I thought I'd show you my next watch, which is gonna be the Rolex Explorer. All right, let's get started. And yeah, guys, that happened. So about 40 minutes into recording, the battery started dying on me, and I was like, sure, no problem. I have additional battery packs that I had prepared the night before. Reached into my backpack, and of course, what do you know? I completely forgot to bring them. The good news, however, is that I have a new studio set up. So without further ado, let's continue on and take a look at the Explorer. All right. So if you're here, you already know why you are here. This is the one and only Rolex Explorer, reference number 124270, which is the latest version of the Explorer models. It's referred to as Explorer 1 by many, but the official name is simply just Rolex Explorer. There has got to be at least 50 different videos about the Rolex Explorer, and that's because people continue to search for them. Now, they are curious about it. Everyone has heard the term one watch or only one watch forever, one watch collection, and the Rolex Explorer is always mentioned as one of the top, if not the top choice for many. So why is that? Well, you already have heard the common folk tales of its ideal weight, the design, dimensions, that it works with everything, yada yada yada. Now, in the English language, there's one specific word that always irks me, and that word is personally. I think it's a term that is overused and is seldom used with gravity in the way that it was meant to be. However, I'm going to contradict myself today and use this term. There are many videos that give detailed description of why this is the watch. Now, what this video will do is, well, I'm going to tell you why this is personally my watch of choice that I reach for in my watch box all day, any day, every single day. I can promise you that my reasons are justifiable enough to the point that you too would want this watch as well as your watch. Let's get the specs out of the way first. Explorer 124270 has a wonderful diameter of 36 millimeters, which stays true to its first original launch model's dimensions. This iteration, previous to this exact model, or I should say the iteration previous to this exact model, measured in at 39 millimeters, but more on this later on. Now the strap size is 19 millimeters, which decreased from the industry standard at 20 millimeters. This model has a caliber 3230, which is one of the newest movements from Rolex that gives it a nice 70-hour power reserve. It boasts a +2, -2 seconds per day precision, certified through COSC. Like a great all-around tool watch should be. It has a water resistance for up to 100 meters or, 330 feet, for our American peeps. It's got the screw-down crown with the smooth bezel along with the ever famous Rolex Oyster Seal with the blue Parachrome hairspring and yada 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 yada. Here, you can get everything I'm telling you guys from this official Rolex page. So you ask, why am I talking about this watch? And I told you I have my reasons. Let's start with reason number one. So why was I bringing this model out into the wilderness to do this review? This model, while, priced steep, it is still a luxury watch. You know, it really is a tool watch that was designed to be a tool watch. And what I mean by that is, when I slip this on my wrist and go out for my hike in trails, jungles, and what else and whatnot, this really suits the occasion without being obnoxious, standoffish, or feeling like, it's out of place. It's as simple as that. It sounds corny, I know, but when I put this on, for these hikes, I really feel like an explorer. This thing to me is like, what those transformation wrist devices were to, Power Rangers. And I'm being serious. For some weird, unknown reasons, I really feel like those dudes that climbed the mountain, it gives me this like weird mental push that makes me feel like, hey man, you too, you're in the club with us as the journeyman. And believe me when I say, this watch really has me looking forward to going on a hike. But it works out, of the hike trails as well. Which brings us to reason number 2. When other owners, reviewers, and YouTubers tell you that this works as the daily wear, there has to be a reason why. And that reason is versatility. It just simply works with whatever your style is. Now, I work at an office and the dress code here is business casual, but really it's more so casual. My style is comprised of various figures that I respect, and it sits somewhere in the middle of streetwear and Hawaiian tourists that has never been to Hawaii, kind of a thing. I wear lots of t-shirts and jeans as well as Hawaiian shirts, with toms that's just like folded in at the back. So yeah, I'm as casual as it gets. Now, before coming to the States for college, I moved around a lot across various continents. I was based in Asia for a while, and during my years growing up, and I'm talking about like in the early 90s and the 2000s, one of my icons when it came to style was this dude from Japan who goes by the name of Takuya Kimura. Now, quick rundown about this dude. He was a part of a mega boy band from early 90s known as SMAP, and he's also an actor as well. A really good actor by the way too. Did lots of TV stuff as well as movies. But more importantly, this guy was also a model and was the ultimate trendsetter during the 90s and 2000s. Asia during this time was heavily focused on Japanese fashion, and this guy was really the This guy was a heartthrob during this era, and when it came to street fashion, he was on top of the game. I was based mostly in this country known as Singapore, before flying out to the States. And during my early years, I was out for dinner with my family this one time, when I was living there, and we went to a Japanese restaurant. Now, mind you, when I'm talking Japanese restaurants in Singapore at the time, these restaurants were run by actual Japanese chefs, and it was as authentic as it gets. Most of these joints were family restaurants, and it literally was like an actual restaurant that was just taken out of Japan and, placed in Singapore. So these Japanese casual family restaurants during these years were really fun, because they used to put like piles and piles of mangas and like Japanese like dude magazines. And I used to gravitate, towards these magazines because one, they had a lot of fashion stuff in them and that I could look at and take inspiration from. And two, Japanese magazines, they always had this section known as the Guravia section, which is basically sexy girls in bikinis, or in many cases just like, topless girls. Super hot. So pretending like I was looking at fashion stuff or some stuff, while ducking my parents and my little bro, in the same table before the meal. Man, those are some good times. But anyways, back to Mr. Kimura. So, there was this one image of him that I came across, when I was out, with my family. And it was just, my ideal style back in the day. And you know what? To be honest, even now. I actually managed to find this photo online, and it's this one right here. The style was perfect, but more so, I was really drawn to the way that he wore his watch. It was loose and just like coolly sitting on his wrist, and I wanted to know what it was so I could beg my parents to buy me that. So I started watching a lot of the TV shows that he was on and started researching his watch choices, from images online and through videos and what else and whatnot. And I found out that this guy was a watch guy. More so, specifically, a Rolex guy. Checking out one of the TV shows that he was on, I saw a watch that gave me the vibe in the pic, and this watch was an Explorer. I mean, in the show, he wasn't even dressed in the uber cool way like, he normally does in real life. I mean, the man was pretty much suited up. But even with that, when I saw this watch, I was like, I gotta get that watch. There was absolutely zero, and I mean zero chance in hell that I was going to tell my parents to buy me this watch. You have to remember, Rolex is such an iconic brand that even back in the days, Asian parents always mentioned Rolex as the watch and as the measurement of success in life. They never told me what it was, how much these things cost, or why it's even special, but having heard the name being run across from various Asian descendants, I mean, I knew that this thing is expensive. So, even since I found out about this watch, I started basing my watch purchases from the Explorer, the design that this gave, but of course, nothing was this. The model that Mr. Kimura here has on, is the 90s variation, reference number 14270, and this is an absolute classic that is still, even to this date, very popular. So let's talk a little about the Explorer 2. There's versions to this watch. I'm sure you guys that are watching my video right now already know of this, but just in case there are some people here that are getting new into this whole watch game, here's a quick rundown. The original watch is famous because these two guys climbed Mount Everest with this, and Rolex, of course, sponsored them with the watch. It's this guy and this guy. Now, quick fun fact here, Rolex was not the only watch that this guy Hillary wore. He actually had another watch known as Smith watches, which is from the Great Britain, which he wore when he went up to the mountains. And let's just leave it at that, because if we start talking about which was actually at Everest first and what else and what not, it becomes too overly discussional, Plus the Rolex also did not have the name Explorer at the time. The watch that these guys wore looked different from the Explorer of today. Now, when these two were up in the mountains in 1953, the watch actually looked like this. Reference number 6298 is the version that they had when they conquered the mountain. Now, Explorer has a long history of versions, variations, and colors. And again, that is a topic of its own that we could discuss for a while. So instead, we learn that it started with this, and that's it for now. So from this, we descend, get it? Descend? Alright, my bad. We descend into various models and variations, but the one that became sort of the starting point with the base design was this guy, reference number 6610. Now from here, we move into reference number 1016. This thing ran for a while, from years 1963 all the way to 1989, and this to me, and to many Explorer fans, is the start of what everyone refers to as the Explorer. From 1016, we move into the Kimura Takuya 14270, and these are now considered vintage due to its production years, but they're simply put fantastic pieces that is still very widely popular to this date. Now, you guys remember earlier on I mentioned that there is a 39mm Explorer, which is the previous version of our 12470 that we're talking about today. This is reference number 214270, and this was a controversial release that received a lot of love. Controversial because this was the first time that Rolex boomed up the size from the original 36mm to a larger 39mm in diameter. Plus, you were getting a modern day Rolex upgrade here with the solid, bracelet all around that you see in the modern pieces now. I tried this watch on several occasions and I can tell you it's a fantastic watch. This was the piece that I was considering to purchase as my first Rolex. I mean, I would still like to buy this one now, still as well, just for keepsakes. But the whole pricing thing with Rolex nowadays, yeah. Anyways, I purchased our Starlight last year, and at retail price that too. So I'm sure you guys are wondering, why did I get this guy above the other guys that are available? Simply put, the 124270 is an homage that returns to its original roots while truly being a modern banger. Sounds crazy, right? I know. Anyways, alright, enough with the history. Reason number 3. It's a watch that is a watch for everyone. And what I mean by that is this is a watch that does not scream that it's a Rolex, but it just, also well looks and wears like a modern Rolex. This is the Rolex that I noticed that when I wear it, no one really knows what it is and it does not scream for attention. Now, of course, unless you go out of your way to see what it is, it seriously looks like a normal plain watch, and I really love that. That is until you put it on and wow, it just, really feels so exquisite. I mean, just look at this thing on my wrist. It's perfect. So little and yet so much presence at the same time. It's perfect for my medium-sized wrist and I really love it. So what everyone has been saying, I know it sounds cliche, but they are true. This really is the watch that I can always rely on, and that is based on my personal opinions. And I am very confident that in this case, the personal opinions will translate into general acknowledgement from you guys watching this. I hope you guys enjoyed the review today, and if you did, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button along with the bell. It really helps grow the channel tenfold. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.